Hi, it's Carolyn the Contest Queen. I thought I would just pop on and do a live today because I had some things in my mind and it's a great way to connect with everybody. And so, what I wanted to talk about was why my next book was taking so long. I had wanted to come out with it in the summer and that didn't happen. And then I said, okay, I can have it for November, and that didn't happen. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to have it out for the end of January, and that didn't happen. I thought, why is taking me so long with this book? Instead of getting, entire chapters done or dozens and dozens of pages written all in one swath, it's, paragraphs or sentences. It's just, I feel like I'm, walking through sludge. And I think a lot of it has to do with the pandemic. I think I just feel the weight of the world and everything just feels heavy. And sweepstakes are fun and exciting and happy. And it just hasn't felt that way while I'm writing it. It just, because you know, you want to impart that energy and it's not coming out. It's slowly feeling that way, but it's been really hard, and I know I'm not the only one. I have another business. I have a marketing business, and one of my favorite clients is Robert Ohotto, and he's an intuitive coach, and he talks about astrology and the energies, and yeah, it's been heavy for all of us. It's not just me. So I see a lot of that chatter in his Facebook groups when I'm managing them, and so it does help to know that you're not alone. But what I wanted to talk about today, and to give myself a little bit of boost of energy to write and be inspired or be happy and excited, was the evolution of the hobby, because my books match. Yes, we had a comment from Brenda. Yes, plus winter. Yes, plus winter. That, I think, is also part of the problem, because the pandemic where I live has locked down everything. So I'm not going to the gym. I'm not going to the mall just to do laps. I have no motivation to work out at home. Yes, I know a lot of people have it. I have my yoga mat. I can do it. It's not the same. I miss hot yoga. I miss the yoga studios. I miss all of it. And then in the summer, I go pin code hunting. It's warm out, and I get out there, and I'm excited. So I'm winning and exercising, and I listen to audiobooks or podcasts. So it's like a triple awesome threat in the morning. I just get going, and I'm excited. And it's so cold out right now. So I don't leave the house. I have nowhere to go, and I got nothing to do. So except sit at home and write and work on other things. But again, the writing's been a bit sloggy. So I'm hoping that, yesterday I put a good dent in it. I've almost finished adding all the stories that have been submitted into the book and editing them. I still have a little back and forth left to do. If you have an interesting sweepstakes stories, I'm looking for all the weird and the wonderful and stories. I like having a variety of stories from all types of people, because from all over US and Canada, because that way when other people are reading the book, they know it's not just me. This person over in this state, this person over in that province, they had this experience, they had that experience. It's really good to show that if I can do it, you can do it. And if they can do it, you can do it. And so I really like that. Everybody that I know that has taken this hobby seriously and has put in some effort has become a winner. It happens. That's all there is to it. So I want to talk about the evolution of the hobby, because I wrote my first book. Oh, the lighting's terrible. I wrote my first book. You can't win if you don't enter the Canadian edition. I started in 2004, and it was published in 2006. So let me give you a bit of the history, and I'm going to read some different things to everybody. I thought it might be a little bit of fun to explain some of the differences in what's happening. Is I had this inspiration to write this sweepstakes book and teach people what I was doing. And so I started doing research on how I would go about doing that. And one of the things that happened was I was thinking, should I write a book, was the kind of the question I asked the universe. And I started asking around, and one fella that I talked to was a fellow marketer who had written a book. And I said to him, so, advice. The best advice, I have given this advice to everybody who asks about writing. He said, write out the table of contents and keep writing. And it can change, but that's what I did. Now, I don't write fiction. I think fiction writing is a whole other kettle of fish. But for a how-to, because it's basically what it is, for a how-to book, I wrote at the table of contents, and then what I did for me was I wrote the easiest chapters first. And then I did move stuff around as I figured out how the book should flow. That's the nice thing about using computers, is because it's very easy, especially now. The more I write and the technology improves, the easier the process has gotten. So that's how I wrote the first book. But as I was researching, I thought, do I even write it? And I asked a fellow journalist who had put an article in the paper, and I called him up and I said, I was asking him all kinds of questions, and he said to me, why would you give all your secrets away? And I thought, that's a good question. So I was driving over to a girlfriend's house to talk about it, and I took a different route. And there was a sign outside of a church. Those service announcement boards? I kick myself to this day that I did not stop and take a picture. And it said, you can't lose helping others win. And I thought, people say, oh God, please give me a sign. I literally had a sign from God. And I saw that and I went, oh, I'm writing the book. I knew that was the title of the book. It wasn't the title of the book, but I knew I should write it. So I didn't even have to talk to her about it. I'm like, I'm writing the book. And so that's what you do. I just knew I was to write it. So then I started researching, and I planned to write one for North America. And I started to discover that there was a lot of differences between Canada and the US. Lingo, resources, taxes, things like that. Now, core things like filling out an entry form and reading the rules, those things are universal globally, right? Like even in the UK, or India's huge. They love contests in India. Australia is popular. I remember even traveling once and seeing some competitions on candy bar wrappers in Italy. I mean, every country does them. So the core competencies of the hobby remain the same. However, there was some intricacies, and I had no idea how to separate that. So what I did was I wrote the first book. And I came up with the title when I interviewed Scott. I can't remember his last name. He's probably in here somewhere. And I think, let's see what. Scott Cruikshank of Marco Sales. They're a big fulfillment house here in Canada. And I was interviewing him, and he said, I don't win very much. I said, wait, what do you mean you don't win very much? And he said, well, if my company's not running it, I could enter. He says, you can't win if you don't enter. And I thought, oh, that's the title of the book. So I wrote it down, and that became the title of the book. So I had Melanie Rocket. She wrote the foreword to this book, and she wrote Winning Ways, which was the last big sweepstakes book in Canada. And that was out in the 80s. And she wrote it with Lynn Goutback, who I had talked to when I started writing this book. And she was a huge sweepstaker. Like, she won so much stuff. And basically, she was the winner. And Melanie, even though she didn't enter some sweepstakes, was the writer. So that's how they tag teamed to write the book. And unfortunately, Lynn passed away before this book was published. So I did put a dedication to her in the book, and Melanie wrote the foreword. And I've actually visited when we went to Vancouver and things. So this book's actually, it's gray. It's supposed to be purple. I do not know to this day what happened at the printers with the Pantone. It was supposed to be like Lucky Purple. Regal. Yeah, that didn't happen. So it's a bit of a gray purple. Yeah, it's not very exciting. It doesn't really grab you. It didn't turn out the way it was supposed to. This book, I had so many different problems learning the printing process. I remember interviewing somebody or talking to somebody once, and he goes, do you have brick marks on your forehead from basically banging your head against a brick wall as you go through the publishing process? Self-publishing, thankfully, has gotten ridiculously easy compared to when I started doing this 15 years ago. This was easier than it used to be previous years, probably even when Helene was doing it, because Helene self-published her books. But yeah, it was still hard. So I remember reading Mark Victor Hansen's book, The 1 Minute Millionaire, and he said, write a book and make $1 million in like 30 days. I'm like, yes. It never happened. So it took me 22 months to write this book. So from the minute I started to when I had this in my hand and it was on Amazon, it was 22 months. Oh my gosh, what an ordeal. And what nobody told me was the editing process takes as long as the writing. I remember finishing all the writing and thinking, this is fantastic. I'm done. No. You just got started. Oh, Gary says, and now you have $1 million? No, I still have not made $1 million. I'm on my 6th book. I still have not made $1 million. Believe me, I make $1 million, people are going to know. And I haven't won $1 million either. So, but I did buy a ticket. So you can't win if you don't enter, right? So what I did was I wrote this first book, and so I started in 2004. It was published in 2006. And the foreword was by Melanie, and I wrote the introduction about, and oh my gosh, I have taken this out. My first quote was by Mr. Trump. Everything in life is luck. It is a true quote, but it's not in my book anymore. And that is a real serendipitous quote from him. But I really liked the first paragraph because I think it really stands out. It says, I love entering contests. I get such a thrill out of finding new ones and reading about all the different prizes that I could win. I get butterflies in my stomach. I daydream about all the trips I could take, the cars I could drive, or what I would spend the cash on. I love getting notified I won a prize. I get all bubbly inside and I grin from ear to ear for hours. I am passionate about contesting. And you know what? That's the beauty of this hobby. I started contesting on a daily basis 20 years ago, as I started in 2001. This is my 20th anniversary. And that has not changed. Isn't that wonderful? So the first introduction chapter, if you want to read this, if you go to my website at contestqueen.com and click on the books, and you can't win if you don't enter, you can read the introduction chapter for free. It is available to download. And I talk about how it started, how contests changed my life, how my mom and I went on my first trip win, how I won tickets to the Ice Capades, and I asked everybody I knew, and I ended up taking a fella and a colleague who I ended up marrying. So it changed my life. I won a prize, and I quote a Reader's Digest. So my ex-husband had bought me a subscription to Reader's Digest at one point, and I used to love reading in bed with them because it was before the Kindles, which is nice and small and light. I used to read a lot of big, heavy hardbacks. So, in bed, it's not as comfortable. And so I was reading this Reader's Digest, and I came across an article about a woman and her husband who entered sweepstakes as a hobby, and it enhanced their lifestyle. And I thought, what a good idea. I can do that. I don't need... And I was unemployed at the time. I thought, I don't need a job. I can just win stuff. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. So the article's in there, so you can read that. I had permission to reprint it. And so I have our winning streak that really started promoting us to this way and all the different things. And so that's how that one came about. And then while I was midway, this is how I decided to split the books. While I was researching, I had the book about half done. And in 2005, I got invited to the 16th Annual National Sweepstakes Convention. And my ex and I drove to Moline, Illinois. You know, we took a couple of days to drive. We showed up. It was like nothing I'd ever seen. First of all, and I do talk about that in the upcoming book, I talk about how I thought I had come home. So I've always felt like a duck out of water. And I went to the Sweepstakes Convention, and it was so strange. So the hotel was so busy. We stayed in the hotel next door, and we were in the breakfast bar. And, you know, we're having tea and cereal or whatever we're eating. And I'm looking around, and I think, I know these people. I know them. I had I could feel it. You know, it was an internal knowing. I said to my ex, I know these people. It's really strange. And then we went to the first meeting and met everybody and went to the vendor room, and it was crazy. I thought, I know all these people. I felt like I'd come home, and they were so friendly and they were happy to have me there. And I actually ended up giving a speech, and it was so much fun. I said to my ex, I said, we're coming every year. And we did right up until like, I haven't hardly missed any. And then actually I was hoping to go this year, but I don't know if they're going to be able to hold it. It's supposed to be in Arizona, and I'm crossing my fingers, but I don't see it the way everything's panning out, sadly. Maybe next year. So we'll see what happens. But they're so much fun. And I thought, I know all these people. And it gave me a real insight into the US hobby. And so I made a Canadian version. And then as soon as I was finished this one, I started. And it took me 20 months to do the American version, which I don't actually have a copy of. I thought, I have one in like my memory box. I keep I have my author's copy that I got, and I have none left of the original book. I think maybe I'll have to just go on Amazon and order myself one. Because I don't have it. I don't have a copy. And so anyway, I don't have a copy. So the American one, if you go to Amazon, that foreword was written by Sandy Gulliver. Now at the time she owned Sweepsheet. And that book was coming out. That book came out in 2008. And I remember we went to the convention. It was in San Antonio, Texas. Oh my gosh, that was so fun. And I remember sitting around the pool with Sandy and her husband. Sandy's husband I don't think was there. And Patty, who had just bought Sweepsheet, and her husband, and myself and Craig. And we were all, sitting around having a cocktail and just talking. It was amazing. And Patty's now gone. And it's quite something. So we'll see what happens. In my new book, I have put a dedication to Patty. And so then what happened? I'll go through the evolution. I know sweepers keep dying on me here. It's not good. So then I decided I was going to write a second book. And I started to write an update to this book. And then I went through this long divorce, and I just didn't feel like writing. I was dealing with different things, and I had some opportunities, and I just couldn't pull myself together in time to write a book. But I had been doing it long enough that I knew that I wasn't going to bother doing two different books. I was going to take both editions and smash them together and update the whole thing and come out with one second edition. So instead of having a Canadian second edition and then an American second edition, I was going to have one second edition. And my dad had said to me, name it something else, because you can't win if you don't enter. Sounds like work. People don't want to work. They want to win. Oh, yes. April says, I get excited when I win stuff. I get excited when others win stuff as well. Yep. Me too. Absolutely. So then I thought, well, what am I doing? I'm teaching people. So this is how to win. This is literally what we do, right? How to win cash cards, trips, and more. And I told my webmaster to make it really fun. And I went with green, and he came up with this. I love this. It looks so, isn't it inviting? And if you look really closely, I don't know if it's going to show on the screen, but the green, you can see there's like embedded in there. It's like wee little pictures of trips and cars and all kinds of prizes in this like background. It's kind of fun. There's like a train and a headset and, you know, like mountains and sunshine and cars and canoes, and there's a rocket ship. Believe it or not, I just saw a contest for a trip in space. So there's always something. Oh, thanks, Joanne. She says that book is my freaking Bible. So this one, I called on Steve Ledoux, who's known as the Sweepstakes King. Oh, I don't have any of his books up here right now. I have them but he wrote How to Win How to Win Lotteries and Sweepstakes in the 21st Century. And his book focused, his book came out in the 90s, and it focused on mail-in sweepstakes, lotteries, clearly, and like recipe contests. He had a lot of recipe contests, and then he had a little blurb on game shows because he lives in LA. But he's not doing that any longer. But he won a lot of stuff, and he was known as the Sweepstakes King. And that's when I was trying to come up with a marketing moniker. And then that's when I thought, well, if he's the Sweepstakes King, I'm the contest queen. So that's where that came from. But so what I did, and the other reason I really needed to write this book was because social media had come into play. And Facebook, as well, we all know this now, it's been happening for years, but Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and now TikTok and at one point Pinterest was doing it, but that's kind of fizzled out, and Snapchat, they've changed the face of the hobby completely. And so we've changed it. So I got Steve to write the foreword. And then when I went to California in 2017, I finally got to meet him. It was so exciting. Oh my God. That was the best. If you go to my YouTube channel, he did a talk at a mini convention that I had hosted, and he spoke, and I filmed it manually on my phone like this. So like I didn't have any equipment, nothing, but it's there. It's a little rocky, but it's still worth listening to. That's the one thing I talk about. Like, one of my goals this year is to upgrade all my video equipment. So I'm on a new camera that I won from eMeet. That was the first prize, but I'm working on the lighting because I don't have all the proper lighting yet. I want to get the proper microphone. Eventually I want to upgrade the computer. We're going to get there. This whole game is going to improve, but I'm not going to wait until I get that equipment to get out my message. Why would I wait? It's just like writing. I didn't have all the skills, but how do you get the skills? You jump in with both feet and you do it. And as you go along, you get better and better and better. It's just how it is. So what I did was I took both books and I combined them all, and I got new stories, and I ripped out chapters. I added chapters. So I'd say it's a pretty good fair balance. Oh yeah, this was fun. Joanne says, no kidding, for real. I felt that way when I met you at the convention in 2014. I was so damn excited. Yeah, I love doing that. Wendy wants to know about adding open caption for I don't know if I can do that on StreamYard. I will look into that for the future. So she asked about that. So we will look into that, because I know when I do a Facebook Live on its own, I can add in the captions, but I started using StreamYard because, one, it allows me to add comments onto the screen, and two, it allows me to stream Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I do want to eventually add an Instagram. This program doesn't allow me to add an Instagram, so I'm going to get a stand-up stand for my phone, because right now I only have one that does it sideways. And then I will be able to put it, you know, maybe about here and stream on Instagram at the same time I'm streaming up there on the other 3 channels. So then I can do 4 channels at once. So we'll see what we can do about that. No, my new book is not available on Amazon right now. You know where it's available? It's available on my computers. I'm still writing it. It's called Prizes, Prizes Everywhere. Now, if you don't want to wait and you want to learn the core sweepstakes, go find Canadian edition is purple. You can't win if you don't enter. American edition is blue. This one was out in 06. The American one was out in 08. So make sure you get the right version, because the resources are different. If you get the Kindle version, they're only 99 cents. So get that book and start, because the core parts of the hobby, how, you know, what you're looking for, how, you know, get your own email address just for sweepstaking, like a ton of tips, like just start there. It's only 99 cents. And then when my new book comes out, then you can go and buy it. And you'll already be up to speed, because let's face it, you can start winning even with old information, because the core bits are the same. Then what I'm updating is all the social media, and I'm adding in new stories, and I'm changing chapters. There's not a single old story in the book. The forward's completely new. The introduction's completely new. The social media chapter is going to be completely updated, because even though I am still talking about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and now I'm adding in TikTok, I've taken out Pinterest because that's fallen away. However, how those programs look and what you click on has changed. So I have to update all those. So if I say click on this, this is now what it is versus what it was in the past. Basically, the minute I publish the book, it's already out of date. The technology moves so quick. But you'll also notice there's a size difference. So what I did was, if I kept the original size of the book and I blended the Canadian and American edition, it was going to be really thick. And then what happens is, if I tried to mail a book or give away a book, it would not fit through the mail slot. So what I did was, I went and found a bunch of books that I figured were going to end up about the same size as my book that I wanted to. And I went to the post office with envelopes, and I had because I mailed so many, the postal lady's amazing at my local shop. And so she weighed them all and wrote down, we had some sample like places it would ship to, and it would fit, and this is that. And so I went up a size. There's standard book sizes that I found out from Amazon. And so this is one standard book size. This is another standard book size. So if you notice, they're about the same thickness. So I was able to get more information in the book without increasing postage too much. Now the weight is a little more, but it can still go through the slot. So it doesn't go up to the next range. Smart cookie. So Prizes Everywhere is going to be this size. And I did keep this size because when I did Helene's new books, like when I redid Helene's books, they're all the same size. I just kept going with this size, even though these books were thinner. And I could have gotten smaller because some of her books were smaller. Like, you know, like this one's much smaller. This is closer to my other book. You see, this is this size. But I just like the consistency, even though it makes some of them a little bit thin. I think it's okay. It's also nice to have, you know, I like the big pages, and I keep the print a bit big because some of us need reading glasses right now. As unlike the Kindle, and then the Kindle editions, you can obviously scroll that. So let me see. Yes, April. Yeah, you can't win if you don't enter. It is very true. Yes. So um, Mendy, it is blue is the American one for the 99-cent version. And then the How to Win Cash Cars, Trips, and More is the combined edition. So if you want to spend a little more, you can get this. Came out in 2016. So I've got some stories in here, but one of the things is lots of stuff has changed. So in 06 was the last time I saw an entry blank in a store in Canada. I don't know does anybody still find entry blanks in stores in the US? I don't know. There's still mail-in where you do like a 3x5, and we still have mail-ins. If it's a purchase entry, I do a mail-in one. So I'll do a purchase where I'll go get the cereal or the chocolate bar or the chips or whatever it is. And I'll do that because I always say support the sponsor. And so I'll get in a few like that. But just to even my odds out, I always do a few mail-ins too. I don't just, so even if it said you can mail one every day and it's a month long, I might send in 2 or 4, depending on the prize. If I really want it, I'll send in 1 a week. If it's okay, and I think, well, let's just see, I'll send in 2, a couple. It doesn't hurt. And also, it's not that good to eat all that chocolate or chips or soda. That's why I pin code hunt all summer. But again, I support the sponsor. We do buy the sodas and the things. Oh, okay. Here, Bill says, thank you, Bill. There was an entry blank for a kayak at my local shopping mall here in Pensacola. I signed up last week, 1 entry per person. Perfect. But yeah, those are like the in-store ones. I'm wondering if national companies, and I don't think they're doing them anymore, where you remember you used to find them along I used to I worked for 6 months at an ad agency, and I knew this from marketing, but I can't remember, shelf talkers. There would be a shelf talker with a pad of entry blanks. And I haven't seen one in Canada since 06. And I'm wondering if they even exist or when the last time the Americans saw one. So, yeah, so no in malls for a car before the pandemic hit. Yeah, we've seen car ones up here. And of course, we in Canada, so the biggest prize you can win in the States that I know of is the HGTV fully furnished home. It's a couple $1,000,000 depending on the year. Sometimes I've seen it like 1.7, 2.4. It depends on where it is and whatnot, but it's pretty spectacular. We cannot enter the HGTV home giveaway. And so the only way for me to win a fully furnished home is to buy a provincial lottery ticket. So the hospitals and various charities like the Canadian Cancer Society does a charity, Sick Kids Hospital does a charity. The big ones are Heart and Stroke does a charity. And the biggest one in the Toronto region or from Ontario is the Princess Margaret Hospital. And this time, the spring, so they do it twice a year, spring and fall. The spring one, it's a $7 million home. It's like a $4 million home, plus you win like $1 million cottage and $1 million cash and something else. So it's like $7 million prize. So my boyfriend and I pooled our money and we bought 3 tickets. So wish us luck. We will see. But that's the only way you can win a house here in Canada. You have to buy tickets to those types of lotteries. I've never seen a house given away. Actually, that's not true. I've heard of one house ever since I've been sweeping in 20 years given away here in Canada without a lottery or a purchase attached to it in some way. So it's not part of something or not part of this. So that's where that is. So what happened is there was a large gap. I had intended to write this book. I started writing in 2009. And then I started going through a divorce and I had no bandwidth. And then in the end of 2013, I won a publishing deal that would help me publish my book. But believe it or not, I was so sad. I'm going to actually talk about this in the next book, and I'm going to explain why. Because I've got a chapter called in this book, it's called Attracting Luck. But in my next book, I'm calling it Being Lucky, and I'm changing it a bit. I want to basically make it so that if you have this book, you have a reason to buy the next book. There'll be enough. Some of the stuff has to stay the same, like the core competencies of sweeping. But the tips, the stories, the different thoughts are going to be different. So I was so sad that I just couldn't pull myself together to finish. So I was writing as fast as I could, but I wasn't doing a great job, and I didn't make the deadline, so I lost the prize. So I should have had this book out in 2014, and then losing that made me even more miserable. So I didn't write again for a whole year. Just literally sat, and I didn't write. And finally in 2016, I thought, okay, this is enough, moping around. I got to do something. And so I got this finished, and I just published it myself. And so in this book, The Dedication, because I had met Helene, I dedicated this one to Helene, to Bob Manel, and to Dorothy Shepherd. So Bob wrote, in the American edition, he wrote some of the tax chapter. And Helene, well, we all know Helene. She, I have since, been working with her still. She's apparently, I have a psychic girlfriend. She said she loves what I'm doing with her stuff. And then Dorothy Shepherd, if you've ever read the book or watched the movie, The Prize Winner of Defiance, Ohio, she was Evelyn Ryan's, one of her best friends. And I met her, and she passed away. The last time I saw her was 2010. So again, the book, the lighting is wonky. We'll get this lighting down. I have improved it. If you notice, the table doesn't really rock anymore. I bought a new table to do videos on. So this one, I have the same introduction at the top, but the stories have changed. It changed a little bit. I changed it around a bit. I told some of it the same, and some of it was different. So I moved stuff around, and I tried to get the flow a little better. And I added in some recommended reading and some different adventures we went on. And I still talk about, the background. It's called Why to Win a Sweepstakes, promotion. And I talk everything about promotion types. And so, but there was a lot of quotes and different things. But you can see what I've done here is, see, for example, under online, right? So you've got what I call an aggregate. An aggregate is something that pulls everything together. So, for example, actually, I think that one closed. So here we go, right? You've got different ones here. So contestcanada.com, which is closed, it won't be in the book anymore, but contestcanada.net has a C beside it for Canadian. But Contest Chest is American, Canadian, United Kingdom, and international. And then, like, for example, Hypersweep has an A for American. And then, Sweepstakes Advantage has an A for American. So, and Sweepstakes Fanatics, A for American. So it makes it really easy for you to figure out which aggregate. And I put everything in alphabetical order. So that makes it easy. And I talk about everything from online, the 5 ways to enter, entering online. I love my RoboForm. Monica wants to know, what have I won? I've won lots of stuff. I've won everything. I think 2018, I won a trip, and we took it in 2019. And of course, I can't even go to anything but the grocery store now. So there's like no trips up here. It's really interesting to see the difference between the United States and Canada, because in Canada, we have 2 million people less than just the state of California. So the number of sweepstakes available to Americans is huge, and how they're handling things down in the States is different than in Canada. So I am entering to win a contest to the Super Bowl for 2022. And it even says in the rules that if travel's not possible, there's going to be a cash alternative, which usually doesn't happen. Usually when there's a trip prize, that's it. That's what you get. That's what you take. There's no alternative. But because of the pandemic, companies are getting smart and they're just putting those clauses in so they can just protect themselves, but also make people want to enter because they think, well, if I can't go, why would I enter if I can't go? So they're getting smart and they're changing things a little bit. But there's no trips. And so lately, and that's the one thing I like to win. And what I really miss is the stuff that I'm really good at winning is all locals. So I was really good. I think we went to 7 or 8 concerts in 2019. Like every month we had a date night and we go to a concert and we would have so much fun. We'd go out for dinner first. We'd see a show. We might go for drinks after. It was like every month we're seeing a different band, a different type of band. We saw Hootie and the Blowfish with the Bare Naked Ladies. We saw Sarah McLachlan. We saw Blue Rodeo. We saw oh my goodness, I can't even remember everybody. Colin James, fantastic. And we saw John Mayer, and we saw just a ridiculous amount of people, all different types of music. What's that other country? Anyway, we've had so much fun. And so we would go out and then just tickets or hockey tickets. We'd go see the game. I loved it. All that has gone now. So I haven't not been winning very much because the stuff that I was really good at winning and what I really like to win, I can't enter. So I'm even switching up my hobby. I'm doing a lot of radio contests right now. And I'm doing the purchase contests with the mail-in options. And I'm just waiting for pin code season because I think it's going to be less than there was in 2019, but better than it was in 2020. So we will see what happened. Monica's asked, is the tunnel open? What contest is that? I'm not sure what that is. Did I misspeak? Oh, yes, Cheryl. I know. Isn't that fun? That's the other thing. I posted that I had won, and another sweeper said, I won tickets too. And so we met up and hung out before the concert. It was so fun. I love winning sweepstakes. So what I've done is I'm going to open this up. I wanted to read to you guys. I thought it'd be fun. It's up on the website, but I'm just going to open up my new book. And the other reason, even though it's the 3rd edition, I keep changing the name. I do that for a couple of reasons. One, it makes it much easier for me to post it on my website because the URL is just completely different. It's very good for, SEO, as they say, in the digital world. So it just makes it easier to distinguish, and you can follow along the version, and it clearly will say, it's at the bottom, it'll say 3rd edition of How to Win Cash Cars, Trips, and More. So you'll know, and it'll have the new date. So when you go in to read, then you can tell. So in this one, since the last version and this version, I've got a little dedication to Ron Miller. You might remember I hung out with him. See, I wish Facebook and things had lives back in 2013 because that would have been so fun. And I didn't really do stuff on my YouTube channel because I didn't have any equipment. I had a phone, but I didn't know how to use it as much. Of course, things evolve. But I went on and hung out with Ron for 2 days. It was so fun. Had I known, I would have been filming it and doing different things, but it is what it is. Anyway, I know he's up there having fun with the sweepstaking. And Patty passed away last September, so I've got a dedication to her in here. So let's go down here. I want to read you. Now, Tom Cavalli wrote the foreword for this one. So I have a different person who has written the foreword for every book. So my first was Melanie Rocket, then it was Cindy Gulliver, then it was Steve Ledoux, and now it's Tom Cavalli. So I always have somebody different write it, so it's good to read it because it's interesting. So this introduction is different. This one says, sweepstaking changed my life in ways I couldn't have imagined when I began entering daily as a hobby in 2001. I could envision the prizes, but I couldn't conceive of all the adventures I would go on, nor the lifelong friends I would make. Honestly, the people I met were the biggest surprise of this hobby. That is so true. I know some of you are commenting, people that I've hung out with, and it is a lot of fun. April says, I get really upset when they say you won, but then ask for either banking info or driver's license or social security number. Like it's a no-no, and I don't have this long enough, and I'm not getting that info. Are you a Canadian? So in Canada, we don't pay taxes on winnings of any kind. So unless it states distinctly in the rules for identification, like if you win a car, they are going to ask for your driver's license because they need to make sure that you're eligible to drive and that you have insurance and you can get insurance before you pick up this car. So yes, they will ask you for a driver's license. They can ask you if you have your passports, and in the rules, you must have travel documentation ready to go for some trip contests. And if you don't have it, they can disqualify you. I remember somebody had entered their son, and he won a trip to Australia, but it was a month away, and he had to go, and there was a thing, it was for a certain date, and he said, oh no, he'll get his passport now. And they go, no, it said in the rules you had to have a passport, and they disqualified him. He said, but he can get it in 2 weeks. And they go, no, he had to have his passport before he entered. It said that right in the rules. So you have to, April says she's in the States. So now, a lot of times in the United States, if the prize is over, now it's not always the case, but if the prize is over $600, by law, they have to issue a Form 1099 miscellaneous. And that is a tax form. And they require your social security number for that. Every big prize in the United States will most likely ask you for your social security number. And depending on the prize, they may ask you get it notarized. Sometimes, if it's a really small prize, they still do that. Like some big agencies, no matter what they do, will some big agencies, no matter what they do, no matter what the prize is, ask for the same stuff. They just cover their butts as an agency. Every prize gets an affidavit. Every prize gets the tax form. Every prize wants it notarized. It's kind of ridiculous. So some people go, you know what? I want a $25 gift card. I'm not spending $25 to get it notarized. It's not worth it. And they don't even bother. But so just be aware of that. That's the difference for the taxes. Okay? So if you win something in the United States, that's why people get nervous. But if it's a legitimate company, like for example, if Hello World is sending you forms because you want a big prize from Coca-Cola because they run all those promotions, yes, absolutely give them your social security number. It is absolutely worth it. So there you go. So that's a bit of the difference. And also, in neither country should you ever pay to get your prize. If someone says, give me your credit card number and we'll ship you the prize, no, thank you. Bill says, a couple of years ago, I won a gaming laptop worth $2,000 and they didn't file or give me a 1099. That also happens. There's a story in the book, and she won a trip to Costa Rica. I'm still editing. And they didn't get a 1099 either for this trip. So it happens. But they still had to give them all their data. And so what's happening is, 20 years. I can't believe it's been 20 years. So if you want to read the introduction chapter, I had it posted on Facebook a while ago, and I put it out on Twitter. I have it on my website, but I don't have the page up yet. I got to work with my webmaster. We got to create a new cover. I told him I wanted this one to be purple because the first one didn't turn out purple. So it's going to be prizes everywhere. And so you see how this one says second edition, you can't win if you don't enter. So we're going to have third edition, how to win cash cards, trips, and more. So you know it's the next, book. There's the back of the last one. And then when I did Helene's, I told my webmaster, I liked this, how the format was fun. And Helene had a lot of text on her old book. Like she had all this data. So I took it and had it done kind of in a different style for that. So I'm gonna kind of stick to this because this is kind of fun. I like the way it turned out. So I'm gonna do it again. And so that's the evolution. So so this book, I am writing new chapters, and you know what? Because I've been slogging through sludge, I don't know if the screenshots that I took for the prizes that I gave away a couple of months ago are any good for the social media chapter to show you what not to do on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, because every time I ran the contest, somebody did something wrong. So I might have to do it again. Anyway, I just wanted to pop on for a little bit, connect, because I love doing this. I pay for StreamYard every month, so why not use it? I'm getting a little shaggy. Hairdressers are still closed, but we're just going to keep growing this puppy. Kay says something good. Kay says, tomorrow is the lunar year of the ox, very auspicious for wins. Yes, I have heard that. I should do a blog post on that. I'm going to go look it up, and maybe I'll do a blog post and post it tomorrow, of course, because it's the year. So anyway, I just wanted to fill you in on what was happening with the different books and how it evolved and why I had 2 and then it went to 1, and now why you're going to want to get the next one. It's because, yes, some of the stuff will be the same, but I'm adding in new tips, tricks, and I still have room for stories. So if you got a story that you think is so crazy that you think everybody has to know it, then send it in, especially into the social media ones, because I don't think I have any. I have a Pinterest story, but I do not have a Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram or TikTok story. So if you have a story around the socials, that would be great. I don't have any of those. Hint, hint, hint. And new moon wishes tomorrow too. That's very funny. So I think that's it for now. And I'll be on again. And I do, let's see, it's February 22nd. I do my sweepstakes Q&A. So feel free to go and send me any questions to questions@contestqueen.com, because I save them up and I'll be answering all kinds of sweepstakes questions then. And then and I always do, remember next month, I always do a special St. Patrick's Day one where I sit and drink Baileys and answer sweepstakes questions. One year I had like 3 glasses. I was so tipsy by the end of the show. It was pretty funny. Anyway, we'll talk to you later. Bye.